Before you answer that question, there's something you should know. The person you call me may not be entirely yours. Strange, isn't it? Most people spend their entire lives trying to discover who they are, but almost no one stops to ask who created the person they're trying to discover. Think about it. The way you speak, the clothes you wear, the career you chose, the opinions you defend, even the dreams you're chasing. How many of those were truly your decision? And how many quietly began because someone smiled, approved, or simply expected them from you? Now imagine something impossible. Tomorrow morning, everyone forgets who you are. Your parents, your friends, your co-workers, your followers. No expectations, no reputation, no one left to impress. Who would you become? Would you still want the same life? Or would you realize you've been performing a version of yourself for so long that you no longer remember who started the performance? Psychologist Charles Horton Cooley believed that we don't simply discover ourselves. We build ourselves by imagining how other people see us. He called this the looking glass self, which leads to a disturbing possibility. What if the person you've been trying to improve isn't actually the real you? And what if your greatest limitation has never been fear, or confidence, or talent, but a borrowed identity you never realized you were carrying? By the end of this video, you may not become someone new, but you might finally recognize the person who was there all along. Think about a newborn baby. It has no reputation, no political beliefs, no career goals, no fear of looking foolish, and no desire to impress anyone. It simply exists. So here's the question. At what point does that child begin asking, "What will people think of me?" It doesn't happen overnight. It happens one reaction at a time. A smile becomes approval. A frown becomes correction. A compliment becomes identity. Without ever realizing it, the child begins collecting invisible instructions. This version of me is loved. This version gets attention. This version belongs. Little by little, those moments become something much bigger than habits. They become identity. More than 100 years ago, sociologist Charles Horton Cooley proposed an idea that still shapes modern psychology today. He called it the looking glass self. His idea was surprisingly simple. We don't see ourselves directly. Instead, we imagine how other people see us. And then, over time, we slowly become that person. Think about that. Long before you ever asked, "Who am I?" your brain had already been asking, "Who do I need to be accepted?" Maybe that's why criticism feels so personal. Maybe that's why praise feels so addictive, because they aren't just comments, they're mirrors. And if you spend enough years looking into other people's mirrors, something strange begins to happen. You stop asking, "What do I actually want?" And you start asking, "What version of me will they accept?" That's the moment your identity quietly shifts. Not from authenticity, but from adaptation. At first, adaptation helps you survive. It helps you belong. It helps you stay connected to the people around you. But if you're never careful, the mask that once protected you slowly becomes the face you believe is real. And that's where the real story begins. Because the greatest identity crisis isn't forgetting who you are, it's never realizing how much of who you call you was built for someone else. Imagine you're 5 years old. You laugh too loudly. Someone says, "Be quiet," so you become quieter. You cry. Someone tells you, "Stop being so sensitive," so you hide your emotions. You get excited about something unusual. People laugh, so you stop talking about it. None of these moments feel important. But your brain is paying attention. It begins collecting invisible rules. This version of me is accepted. This version gets rejected. Hide this. Show that. One experience doesn't change who you are. 1,000 experiences just might. Slowly, without anyone planning it, you begin editing yourself. Not because you want to lie, because you want to belong. Years later, people call it your personality. But what if part of your personality is actually a survival strategy? Psychologist Donald Winnicott believed many of us develop something he called the false self. Not a fake person, a protective one. The false self isn't created to deceive other people. It's created to protect the parts of you that once felt unsafe. Think about that. The version of you that smiles when you're exhausted, stays quiet when you disagree, and says yes when every part of you wants to say no, may not be your personality at all. It may be your protection. And the frightening part is that protection works. People like you, they praise you, they trust you. The mask gets rewarded again and again, until one day you stop wearing the mask and the mask starts wearing you. Carl Rogers, one of the founders of humanistic psychology, noticed another painful pattern. He believed every person has a real self, the person they naturally are. But many of us slowly create an ideal self, the person we believe we must become to deserve love, acceptance, or respect. The greater the distance between those two selves, the more disconnected life begins to feel. That's why success doesn't always feel successful. You achieve the goal, you earn the money, you receive the applause, and yet, something inside you whispers, why doesn't this feel like enough? Maybe because applause cannot satisfy a self that never felt seen. And perhaps that's the tragedy. Some people spend their entire lives becoming extraordinary while never becoming themselves. So, if so much of your identity was shaped by other people's expectations, who are you without them? The answer isn't to stop caring about people. Human beings need connection. We always will. The real question is different. Can you stay connected without losing yourself? Psychologists Deci and Richard Ryan spent decades studying what truly motivates people. They discovered something fascinating. There are two very different reasons for doing almost anything. The first is because it brings approval. The second is because it feels deeply true to you. One is driven by the outside world. The other is guided by your own inner compass. So ask yourself, if nobody could applaud you, would you still choose this career? Would you still chase this goal? Would you still post that photo? Would you still buy that car? Would you still dream the same dream? Those questions can be uncomfortable because sometimes we don't actually want the thing itself. We want what the thing says about us, and that's a very different life. Family therapist Bowen believed that one of the greatest signs of emotional maturity isn't becoming independent from people. It's remaining yourself, even when people disagree with you. Anyone can know who they are when everyone approves. Identity is tested the moment approval disappears. Maybe that's why discovering yourself isn't about becoming someone new. It's about slowly removing everything that was never really yours. The fears, the expectations, the borrowed definitions of success. The version of yourself built to survive instead of to live. Now imagine your life one more time. But this time, imagine no one is watching, no audience, no reputation, no expectations, just you. What would you create? Who would you love? What would you say? What would you stop pretending to enjoy? Maybe the answers won't come today. Maybe they shouldn't, because this isn't a question to answer quickly. It's a question to live with. And perhaps that's the greatest irony of all. Most people spend their lives trying to become someone, when the real journey was remembering who they were before the world told them who they had to be. Before this video began, I asked you a simple question. Who are you without other people's opinions? Maybe there isn't an answer waiting to be found. Maybe it's something waiting to be remembered. The world will always offer you another mask, another role, another version of who you should become. But every time you choose authenticity over approval, you take one small step back toward yourself. So don't leave this video with a new identity. Leave it with a new question. Which parts of me were truly mine before the world answered for me? Because perhaps the greatest act of courage isn't becoming someone else. It's finally having the courage to become yourself.